All right. Step. Let's do the rotation off.
Right, you may be seated. Let the record reflect that all 14 members of the panel, the defendant, his attorney, and the state's attorneys are present. Defense, please call your next witness.
Your Honor, the defense calls Wesley Mathews.
Mr. Mathews, come on up to the witness stand. You go ahead, I'm adjusting the mics, but now you all can access it.
Thank you. Did it?
Don't turn on.
Okay.
They're all.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Mr. Mathews, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
We have had an opportunity to sit here for the past 2 days where you've had an opportunity to hear and see all the work that the Richardson Police Department did in looking for your daughter when you knew where she was the whole time. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
You asked me to give you the opportunity to say something. What would you like to say?
I listened to Officer Savage yesterday, and that's when I realized the gravity of the amount of work that police officers had done. And I just wanted to take this moment to talk specifically to Officer Savage and other Richardson police officers who answered my call and came that morning. I wanted to tell them, please find it in your hearts to forgive me. I wanted to know that I detest myself. I detest myself for being untruthful to police officers. I admire and I cherish the work that police officers do every single day. They put on their uniforms and they kiss their loved ones and they get to work putting their lives on line to protect people like me. And it pains and saddens me knowing that I was untruthful to them, to these honorable men and women who wear the uniform in blue.
Well, you're not only untruthful to Officer Savage, but you were also untruthful to Officer Diaz when you had that original interview with him. Isn't that also true?
That is correct. So Officer Savage, Officer Diaz, Officer Farmer, and the Richardson Police Department who were involved, who answered my call and who were involved in this.
What about the other men and women in law enforcement and that canine handler that came down? What do you have to say to them? Truly sorry. I don't have words to express my
how sorry I am to these fine officers, these fine people who were filled with love and concern for my baby Sharon. And they devoted a lot of time and effort and their energy to find my baby Sharon when I could have easily stopped that. And I apologize to all of the dear ones who went heart and soul to look for my baby Sharon.
Well, let's back up. Mr. Mathews, let's just jump straight into the frying pan and go to October 7th and 8th. I believe it was a Friday. You got home. You were getting ready to put the kids to go to bed, you and your wife, Sini. Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what happened when you put the kids to bed.
So I had just taken my shower and I stepped into the master bedroom and Mama Sini was already in bed with Shayna and Sharon was sleeping or lying in her crib. And I took my position in the right side of the bed. And as I lay down, I had a big day on Saturday. I had a lot of work to finish up on Saturday, so my mind was thinking about all the things that I had to do on Saturday. And as I was thinking about all of that, I can hear Sharon turning and tossing in her bed. And she did that a couple of times. And that seemed very surprising to me because Sharon usually, the moment she lies down, she sleeps, or she might just turn once and she usually sleeps. But this was a couple of times she was tossing and turning. And I looked to her and I saw her looking at me and I asked her, Sharon, are you hungry? And she nods her head. And I tell her, okay, come, let's go drink our milk. And she gets up and I pick her from the crib and we walk out towards the door. And I grab my phone, I give it to Sharon so she can hold on to it. And I open the door and Sharon goes in front of me and I step out into the hallway and I close the door. Sharon goes to our play area. Now there are modem and router lights that are lighting up, so it's kind of lit up. So Sharon goes to the play area, while I walk straight to the breakfast area, and I turn on the lights halfway, and I get her bottle from the kitchen, the one that she was supposed to finish, but she hadn't finished. So I threw that milk out. I cleaned the bottle out. I dried it, and I poured fresh milk for Sharon. And I told Sharon, come on babe, it's time to finish your milk. So she comes and she stands by the spot. There's a spot, Sharon's spot. That's where usually she stands and drinks her milk. So I give her the bottle, she stands there and she starts to work on her milk. And I take a chair by the breakfast area. I sit there, and I'm going over all the things for the next day. And so time passes. I'm feeling sleepy. I want to engage myself in doing some activity so I don't fall asleep. So I do some cleaning around the house, do some chores, clean up the wood floors, and things of that sort. And I check back on Sharon, and Sharon hasn't finished her milk. I tell her, babe, hurry up. We got to finish your milk and we got to go back to sleep. She nods her head. And afterwards, a little while later, I play on the piano for a while. Meanwhile, Sharon is in her spot. And I come back, and then Sharon is still working on her milk. So I tell her, babe, hurry up, come on, we got to finish our milk. And she nods her head, but she doesn't finish as much. So by now, I'm really concerned because the whole day, I don't know how much she has had to eat. The whole day, I don't know how much milk she has had to drink. And we've always been on a very strict emphasis by the doctors.
Counsel, please approach. Lisa, let me know when you're ready. I'm ready, Judge.
Do I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Mr. Mathews, why were you consumed with her being Sharon, daily intake of food, milk, or what have you?
Sharon was underweight, and so the emphasis was on us as parents to make sure she gets to eat a lot of calories, take a lot of calories. And so we would always...
Who provided the emphasis to you?
The Dr. Dakel's clinic started it, and the feeding therapist also was following up on that.
And what were the things that they had you do?
Dr. Dakel's clinic essentially told us back in February that it is not the amount of food that she eats, it's the amount of milk that she drinks. So she definitely needs to drink 2 8 ounces of milk at least every day. And on top of that, if she wants to eat something, she can eat, and then it's up to her, whatever it is. So we've always been under that firm guideline by Dr. Dakel's clinic to make sure that...
And I'm sorry, I want to try to break it down into smaller answers and questions, Mr. Mathews. What were you afraid of? What were you afraid of if Sharon wouldn't reach her goals? What were you afraid of during this time period?
Essentially, since we've already been called out once by CPS, and CPS investigated us for 4 months, at the end of it, they cleared us of all the allegations. We were always afraid that this doctor can go and dial back CPS and bring CPS back to us. The doctor can say parents are not feeding the child enough, and so it falls on us. So we try all encouragements and all different ways to help Sharon gain a little more weight.
What were the different techniques, strategies that you used to get Sharon to drink her milk?
We would have these additional milk powders. They're called breakfast essentials, and they're in different flavors: strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, and the 3 flavors. And then we would have Horlicks in the house. So we would alter these flavors so that Sharon would not get used to drinking just one flavor all the time, and she would start rejecting one flavor. So we would keep altering these flavors, and then we would give her time. Let's say she can drink 2 ounces or 4 ounces in 20-40 minutes, and then go take a break, play, and then come back later and drink another 4 ounces.
Now let's go back now. We understand what was at the back of your mind is the probability of CPS getting involved again, or CPS coming in and taking your children away.
That is correct, sir.
So you wanted to make sure that Sharon at least got her daily quota, for lack of a better word, of her milk intake? Is that correct?
We would definitely try to do that, yes, sir.
So Sharon is in her spot, and describe for the jury where her spot was in your home, and what do you mean by it was her spot. What do you mean by that?
So it's a big place in the house. Let's say I'm standing in Sharon's spot. To my right would be the kitchen. To my left would be the breakfast area. In front of me would be the living area with the TV. And there would be two hallways on either side. The left side hallway goes down to the master bedroom. The right side hallway goes down to the three other bedrooms. So Sharon essentially picked that spot because she can watch her TV standing in that spot and try to finish her milk. And also she can look at Dada when Dada is working, or she can look at Mama when Mama is in the kitchen. So essentially Sharon picked that spot, and that was her favorite spot to be holding her milk and drinking her milk.
In addition to the fear of CPS coming in and maybe taking your kids away or getting in trouble with Dr. Daigle or anybody with her clinics because of the feeding issue, were you also afraid of the next step if the feeding didn't go well, of her having to have a feeding tube?
Yes, sir. So Dr. Daigle's clinic put in the order for a special facility called Our Children's House. This facility specializes in placing NG tube or G tube for kids so that kids can be fed more calories through a tube.
Is that something that you and Cindy wanted to avoid at all costs, of having a feeding tube put in Sharon because you thought that she could drink the milk on her own?
Yes, we definitely did not want Sharon to have a feeding tube, essentially because Sharon had completed her occupational therapy and physical therapy, and she had done so well. She had gained so much ground, and the moment she's admitted to a hospital in Our Children's House, a clinic such as that, the stay would be at least 30 days. 30 days, and in a place like that, Sharon cannot be doing her regular therapy exercises or continue with her regular therapy exercises. She cannot be interacting with other kids because there could be a possibility that other kids might pull the tube out, or there's something might happen. So this was weighing heavily in our minds, essentially more so because Sharon, in all aspects, was a healthy child. She had no medical conditions trying to suck, swallow, and reflex. She could eat, chew, drink very well, no issues at all. And based on the feeding therapist Nikki's recommendation, Nikki had put in that Sharon has severe behavioral issues regarding feeding. And that is why Dr. Daigle's clinic put in the order to admit Sharon for a feeding tube at Our Children's House.
Well, let me stop you there. So all these things are swimming through your head sometime that evening on that Friday night. And at some point, what do you do with Sharon?
So at some point, I decided to go to the garage because I had just cleaned it out and it was nice and clean. I was walking barefoot in the garage, so it was pretty clean. And I wanted Sharon to be able to take a look at the new lawnmower that I had bought. I'd known that she had a fascination for the lawnmower, so I decided maybe she might be interested in looking at the lawnmower and be able to help finish her milk. So I take Sharon to the garage and I show her the lawnmower and get her comfortable in the garage so that she's able to drink her milk.
And then what happens?
Then a little while later, I get a little sleepy and I'm trying to doze off with my chin on my elbow. And my elbow is pinching my left leg. At that point, I just wake up from my little nap, and I see Sharon standing with her bottle, holding like this, with the straw going into her mouth. and I don't see any milk activity. Just I can see the milk staying in the straw, but I don't see her swallowing her milk. And I tell her, Sharon, hurry up and finish your milk. I say that to Sharon.
And what happened next?
It came out much louder than I expected, and it startled her. And immediately she tried to swallow what was in her mouth, and she tried to cry at the same time. She was startled, and so as a result, she started choking and coughing pretty soon because of that choke. And her coughing wouldn't subside. So I picked her up and I rubbed her back, I cupped her back so that her cough would be relieved. But it wasn't subsiding, and I saw that her coughing was getting worse. So I cried out to Mama, Mama. I cried out to Mama, and I kept saying, Sharon, Sharon, come on, it's okay, baby. We can go back inside. We can go back inside. But her coughing was getting worse, and at one point I felt that she was just falling backwards, and I had to support her with my right hand. And I felt that I could not control her, so I had to lay her on the floor. I was on my knees. I laid her on the floor just to make sure that she was okay. But her breathing had gotten much more heavier, and I tried to call Mama. I tried to gently shake Sharon so that she would be out of that spell, but nothing was working. And in a matter, I don't know, pretty soon, her head started going in either direction, and her head came to a still.
You understand that the information you're sharing with the ladies and gentlemen of the jury now is different. You're adding more than what you've told the police back in Richardson in late October. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
And what you're saying is what happened, and you did not go into that type of detail back on the 23rd?
Yes, sir.
At some point, does Sharon become lifeless?
Yes, sir. I check her pulse. I check her pulse on her left arm, and I try to listen to her pulse. I don't listen. I don't hear anything.
At some point, do you try to perform CPR?
Yes, sir. Immediately, my instincts kick in to perform CPR.
Why in God's green earth did you not pick her up, run inside the house, go into your room where your wife, who is a nurse, is asleep? Why didn't you do that?
Based on what I've learned about CPR, my instinct was to provide CPR immediately because I did not want any delays at all, and I did not want to waste any time. I wanted to just start providing CPR so that I could, save some time. The more the time is wasted, then the harder it's to resuscitation to work.
Why didn't you pick up a phone and call 911?
Essentially, I wanted to continue doing CPR, sir.
At some point, did you realize that your attempts to conduct CPR failed?
I kept on giving CPR, persisting in it, trying to make sure that some way, fashion, or form CPR would work and my baby would come back to me.
My question was, at some point, did you realize that your efforts failed?
Yes, sir.
When your efforts failed, why didn't you pick up a phone, go into the house, scream, yell, do something?
I was way too shocked by what had happened. I could not absorb what had happened. I could not believe that, in very quick time, my child had gone from me, and I was just stunned by the whole thing, and I was literally paralyzed.
Then what did you do?
I just sat there. I prayed to the Lord God. I did not know what to do because intense fear started coming into me because I knew that if CPR, if CPS would find out, then definitely they are definitely going to come and destroy and demolish my house. And I did not want Cindy to come and see our Sharon lifeless. So I just stayed there because I knew that Cindy would collapse on seeing Sharon in this condition.
Did you then decide that you wanted to move Sharon to another location so that your wife wouldn't stumble across it?
After some time, I realized that that was essential, that was needed. I wanted to find a place to place my child's body where it could be preserved or protected.
So what did you do?
I wanted to look for ways or places where I can safely keep my child's body. I knew anywhere in my house, my wife or Shayna would see Sharon, and then they would be completely devastated. So I wanted to find a place where I could place my child's body, and I wanted it to be somewhere where I can see from my house. So I went inside the house, and I got my phone because I knew that if Cindy wakes up, she's going to start looking at her phone and start trying to see where I am, and she might panic. So I turned off location services to Cindy's phone, and then I walked to the utility room. I wanted a way to take my child's body, and the only thought that came into my mind was to put my child's body in a blue bag. So I got a blue bag and placed my child's body in there.
Mr. Mathews, your daughter has left us at this point in time. You were saying that you don't want your wife to wake up and encounter Sharon like this because you're afraid Cindy might collapse.
Yes, sir.
So you decide to put your daughter in a blue plastic bag?
Yes, sir.
Then what did you do?
Then I realized that if I drive around, maybe I can find a place to safely keep her body. So I opened the garage, and I opened the rear of our Acura, and I placed my child in the back, and there was some cardboard water crates that we have in the house. We buy gallon water in those crates. So I thought maybe I can take those crates to a dumpster and throw them. So that gives me a place to see where I can place my child's body. So I took those cardboard crates and also put them in the Acura, and I closed the hatch. I closed the garage door, and I got in the car and started driving.
Did you have a plan on where you were going, or did you just drove around aimlessly?
I had no idea where I was going. All I knew that I wanted to throw those cardboard crates in the dumpster. So I wanted to go by the dumpster first. So while I drive, I was looking at either sides of the railway field, and so I found these trees on the other side of Centennial. And I felt those trees were a good place for my child's body to be resting.
Why not at a hospital? Why not at an ambulance? Why not at an emergency room clinic?
I was not ready to give my child's body. I was not ready to give up on my child for some reason.
What do you mean you're not willing to give up on your daughter? I'm not following you. Please help me with that.
I refused to believe that my child had completely gone from this world, I believe that if I pray hard and strong enough, that God would bring my child back. I believe that the Lord God who brought Lazarus out of the tomb after 4 days can bring my Sharon back to me.
At some point you had to realize that wasn't going to happen.
Yes, sir.
So why didn't you just drive over to the fire department, police station, the emergency room for help?
At that point, I was not thinking along those lines, and I was just being driven by fear of CPS and fear of how Cindy is going to take this piece of news, and the fear of losing my house and my family.
So at some point you come across this culvert,
Yes, sir.
and what happened?
So I see those trees, and I wanted to go by those trees and place my child by the trees, but then I see this culvert, and immediately my heart is going, okay, so that culvert looks very dark. I cannot see anything at all. There is a very likely chance that I can crawl in the culvert with my Sharon, and there's going to be definitely a snake in there. And I was eagerly just hoping and praying that I would be bitten by a snake and I can be there in that culvert with my child. Together we can be in heaven with our Lord.
At some point you decide to leave her in the culvert.
Yes, sir. At some point I decide I back out and I get out of the culvert.
And you go home.
And I drove back home. Yes, sir.
All this took about, 45 minutes?
I'm not sure, sir.
You get home, and then what happens?
I get home and I sit by the breakfast table chair, and I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to tell Sini. And I don't know what to tell her. I'm just completely stunned by what's happened and by my actions. And after a while, Sini opens the door and she looks at me from the master bedroom door.
Well, let's stop there for a moment and back up. When did you first meet Cindy?
It was the spring of 2005.
Where did you meet?
I met her at her cousin's house. This was an arranged marriage that had been set up, and so Cindy and I were talking for about a month, and finally we decided that it was time for us to meet. So we met at her cousin's house.
How long did you have this courting relationship with her before you all married?
Probably around 5 months or so. We got married July 30th of 2005.
How long after y'all got married did it take before y'all had your first child?
We had first child in 2013 of December. So we waited, we had 8 years or so.
And that was Shayna, is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
At some point in time, Mr. Mathews, did you and Cindy decide that y'all wanted to have a bigger family?
Yes, sir.
But y'all weren't able to do it the conventional way, is that correct?
Right. We had issues.
Did y'all decide then to adopt?
Yes, our hearts were united. We definitely wanted to consider adoption and go full on adoption.
And why did you choose to adopt a child from India?
Because we wanted a child who was similar to our culture, our lifestyle, and a child who would be having similar language skills as we do. So we wanted to adopt a child from India.
And at some point, did you go to India to strike that. At some point in time, did you get word through an adoption agency that you all had gotten approval of a child in India?
Yes, sir, we did.
Walk us through that, please.
So this January of 2015, Shayna had turned 1 year old, and both of us had decided it was time to start the adoption paperwork. And we looked at all the paperwork, and we spoke to an agency called Holt International. They are based out of Oregon, and they do international adoptions, and they have a Center for India Adoptions. And we spoke to the director who works India adoptions, and he gave us basically everything that we needed to know about adopting a child from India. We had to take around 3 classes each and complete those classes, and we had to fill a whole lot of paperwork. The paperwork included essays about what we expect and what are we looking for, and our verification, background checks, and all of those paperwork. So it's a pretty big stack. So by February of 2015, we were done with the paperwork, and we sent it over to Holt in Oregon, and they got our paperwork and they uploaded all the documents. By March of 2015, the documents were uploaded and sent to the Indian government.
And then at some point in October of 2015, did you get news that you and Cindy had been approved?
Yes, so what they call it is a referral, and the last week of October, on a Wednesday, I was at work, and Cindy tells me, we got an email from Holt saying we have a referral. And I tell her, okay, I'm going to come, let's do it, let's open the email together. So I hurry up home, and we find the referral for Saraswati Kumari in India.
And upon opening up the email, what did you learn?
We had 2 pieces of paper information. It's a CSR form and an MER form, and a picture of Saraswati Kumari.
And was there a time limit or a time window that you had to respond on this adoption?
So we were told by Holt that we have 48 hours by looking at that picture and those 2 sheets of paper, 48 hours to confirm the adoption for Saraswati Kumari.
Did you and Cindy decide at that point that you should go to India to investigate?
Yes. So when we got that information, it was generic information. It didn't have any details in there. So I reached out to University of Minnesota Adoption Clinic, and there's a doctor there. So you pay $600. The doctor would respond in 4 hours. And I sent these documents to the doctor, and the doctor said, okay, so we need lab work for the child, and we need more medical reports for the child. So basically what we've been given is just bare essential information, and with that information the doctor cannot ascertain about the conditions of the child.
So both you and Cindy then decided that it was both of y'all go to India, or one of y'all go to India? How did that come out?
So the 48-hour deadline was getting over by Friday night, and we called up Holt and we said, okay, so the information from University of Minnesota is just nothing at all. The next thing is for us to go to India and see Saraswati ourselves and make sure she's okay. So we looked at tickets, and meanwhile Holt said, okay, they're going to talk to the Indian government and see if the 48-hour deadline can be extended. And so we got confirmation that instead of Friday evening, we have all the way till Monday night to say yes or no to Saraswati Kumari. And immediately I looked for tickets. So this was Thursday. I looked for tickets, and we had one seat available flying out on Friday afternoon. So Cindy and I essentially, we came to the conclusion I would be the right person to go, because this place is it's called Nalanda in India. It's a remote part of India, and it's not safe for a woman to go to that part of the country by herself. And I said I'll sign up, I'll go, and so that Mama can take care of Shayna while I'm there. So
Let me stop you there for a moment, if I may. Let me see how I get this over. Your Honor, I want to publish photographs 7, 8, and 9, and 10, 11, and 12 to jury, please.
Okay, it's coming up for you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
I'm showing you number 7. Is that a map of Asia?
yes, sir.
And India is right here where my finger was.
Correct.
And what part of India were you going to?
I would be going to closer to, can you see Nepal? It's just right above India.
Okay, let me show you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 8. Is that the state of Bihar?
That is the state of Bihar where this town of Nalanda is.
And about how far is that from the capital of India?
It's about 3 hours flight from New Delhi.
And in the state of Bihar, let me show you defense exhibit number 9. What do we see in this picture?
This would be a more expanded view of the state of Bihar, and that red spot right there, that is Nalanda.
And how long of a trip does it take to go from Dallas to Nalanda?
Dallas to New Delhi is around 22 hours. New Delhi to Nalanda is about another 8 hours, I think, 6 hours maybe.
And I want to show you defense exhibit number 10. What do we see in this picture?
So that is the building in blue. That is the orphanage where Saraswati was. And the orphanage was essentially the third floor or the top floor of that blue building.
Let me show you exhibit number 11, defense exhibit number 11. Is that the same building, the orphanage, in blue or bluish green?
Yes, sir.
And I want to show you defense exhibit number 12. What is this the inside of the orphanage in Nalanda?
This is an extension from the building, and that's a cattle shed.
Now, is this orphanage, how would you describe this orphanage? As you're driving in, are you in a taxi, an Uber? How are you getting around over there?
So once we are in the state of Bihar, the capital is called Patna, P-A-T-N-A. I flew down to Patna, and my dad was also there. So once at the airport, Patna airport, we get out of the airport, and there's this whole bunch of people who are there, and they immediately sense foreigners. So they're like, asking, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? And my dad says, Nalanda, Nalanda. And so one person says, okay, 5,000 rupees. The other guy says 6,000 rupees. And my dad goes for the most economical one, 2,000 rupees. And so, we go with that driver. And so we're walking through the street where all the cars are parked, and I pass these Nissans and Toyotas and Fords and all that. I pass, and I reach this. We reach this final car, and it's a 25-year-old car, and the paint is all rusted out, and it just looks in broken condition. And immediately I asked my dad, "Are we able to go to this place in this car?" My dad asked this driver, "Can this car actually go drive for 4 hours or 5 hours?" He's like, "No problem." So we get into the car, no AC, windows are all down. It's hot, dry, hot air. And essentially the car has a steering wheel and a stick shift and somewhat of a radio. The speedometer is just taken out, and it's the picture of a religious deity.
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this point, narrative and relevance.
Counsel.
Alderman Fred's question. So at some point, you get in a car with your dad and you drive all the way to
Nalanda.
Nalanda.
Yes, sir.
And how long was that trip?
That trip was around 4 hours.
And when you got to the orphanage, was your dad with you?
Yes, sir.
Can you walk the jurors through the sequence of how you got out of the car that you were in and how you knew where to go if you've never been there before?
So it's a little confusing to actually get to the building because it sits behind another building. So I had to call the secretary up and ask her where the building is, and so it took us a little bit of going around, and finally we found the building. And it's a mud road that goes to this front building, and the blue building is behind it. So we get out of the car before this building, and the lady says, "Okay, just walk beside the building and get to this blue building on the back." So we walk beside the building, and there's a trench where water is coming out. And we walk behind this building, and we reach the blue building, and it's very narrow. The blue building is probably entirely the size of this courtroom, and so I know that she's on the 3rd floor. So
Let me stop you there. Would you describe this area that you were in to be kind of rural?
very rural, sir.
Okay. I want to, Your Honor, if I may, I want to publish Defense Exhibit number 6, which is a video.
You may.
Let's see if it works. We'll play the video, then when we're done, I'll ask you to articulate on what we saw. Is that Sharon with you when you first saw her for the very first time?
Yes, sir, that is Sharon.
Who are these other children that are there at the same time with Sharon?
Those are the other children at the orphanage who were sitting at that play area. There's a lot of other children inside in the inside rooms.
And who is she going to now?
That would be one of the nannies that they have. Nannies,
I'm
servants,
sorry, one of the what?
nanny.
Nannies?
Yeah.
Were those the ones that were basically the caregivers of the children in the orphanage?
Right.
How long of an interaction did you have with her? Let's start from the first minute you get to the orphanage. Describe how you went up the stairs and what you saw for the first time.
So I approached the blue building, and there's this iron shutters that are there. So to open those shutters and step into the building, and there's these narrow stairs. It's probably 2 feet wide, and probably around 5.5 feet in height. So we get up these stairs, me and my dad, and we climb these stairs all the way to the 3rd floor. And as I go to the 3rd floor, I see Sharon sitting in a bed. The bed would be, if you can see, there is the frame of a leg, a bed frame right there. So she's sitting in that bed, and a lot of these kids are sitting in that carpet right there.
And what type of reaction did you get from Sharon, or did you get more of a reaction from the other kids?
Sharon immediately saw me, and she was probably like stranger alert, so she turned her face away. The other kids were more like, oh wow, somebody new is here, so they kind of swarmed around me.
Did you try to give them candy or something? Or?
Yes, I had a Kit Kat with me, a couple of bags of Kit Kat, so I opened one bag of Kit Kat and gave it to those kids.
And what about to Sharon? Did she seem to want any Kit Kats or anything?
No, Sharon was sitting in the bed, and she was not wanting to come near and grab a Kit Kat. So I was kind of hurt by that because I was here to give Sharon everything that I have. All the other kids came and grabbed up all the Kit Kats from the first bag.
How long a time did you spend there with Sharon on that day?
This is, so I reached, by flight I reached Sunday around 8 o'clock to Patna, and by around 12 I was there in Nalanda, this place. So I was there from around noon to 6 o'clock.
And your father was with you?
Yes, sir.
During this time period, did you send any videos home so that Cindy could see these?
I could not send pictures or videos because of international data transfer, but I was on the phone with her and just giving her an update as much as I could. And by around 2 o'clock in India time, it was around past bedtime, around 3 o'clock here in the United States. So she was in bed. So I told her, to call me when she wakes up, so I can give her a more update of all the things that I had seen and I had heard.
Would it be fair to say you quickly fell in love with Sharon?
Absolutely, yes, sir. First sight.
And regardless of her blessings, this is who you wanted to bring home and adopt?
Yes, sir. I mean, the first time I saw Sharon, it felt like it was my child whom I had lost a long time ago, and finally I found her. It was that kind of a feeling that, finally God gave me my child back to me.
But you understand, you're trying to reconcile that with what happened in October of 2017. That kind of rings a little hollow. You understand that?
Yes, sir, I completely realize that, yes.
And if you recall, obviously if you had things to do all over again, what would you have done different?
I keep going over and over again back to that night, and I keep asking myself, why was I being driven by fear? If I had applied common sense, then most likely my child would be with me, my Sharon and my Shayna would be together, and none of us would be here today. I was just completely driven by fear, and I can't imagine that, at the level of stupidity I went to, driven by fear.
May I have a moment, John?
You may.
Your Honor, I want to publish Defense Exhibit Number 1.
You may.
Mr. Mathews, I'm going to show you a video of a therapy session with Nikki.
You want to do a chip first? Okay, you're okay. Because I just want you to look at it. Look. It's just a haircut. We're just going to leave it right there. It's okay. We're just going to leave it there, okay? Right now.
You want chips? Have a chip. Have a chip.
Color. What one? You pick. Which one?
Sharon, pick
You're
one.
okay.
Pick one to eat. Your favorite.
Fine. Should I put him back? You want some? You want
Sharon,
some?
please pick one. Pick one.
Do you want some or you pick? Okay, you pick one. Oh, you got a big purple one. The biggest one in your bag. Hey, it's okay. Take a bite. It's okay. We're just going to leave it there for right now. I'm going to ask you to leave it there, okay? We're just going to leave it on the table. Did she eat anything this morning?
No.
Choo, okay.
Were those the therapy sessions where y'all were trying to get her
I want you to
to
chew
get
on
used to
them.
different textures, different types of foods, and helping her overcome whatever it was that was holding her back from eating?
Yes, sir.
And was Cindy the one that was present that was recording this video?
Yes, sir.
We're not going to worry about it right now, okay? I just want you to eat your chip.
Sharon, big girls drink from straw. And Sheena drinks from straw. You're a big girl, right? Huh? Sarah drinks from a straw. That's right.
You've done it before. You can do it. I know you can. Are you done with your chip? Let me try some of your egg.
Mr. Mathews, would it be fair to say that you cared for and loved Sharon?
Very much, sir.
Would it be fair to say that if you were to describe yourself, were you a protector of your family?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with me that on that day you failed in that regard and with Sharon?
Yes, sir. I failed my Sharon and I failed my family, sir.
And how do you feel about that?
I feel angry. I'm really angry at myself. And as much as I love and respect and I love and honor God, I'm angry at Lord God too, because it's just not fair that my heart still beats while my child's heart is not. It's just not fair.
What you see today, what you didn't see back then, is you could have done something about that, couldn't you?
Yes, sir, I could have.
You could have run into your wife's room where she was asleep, woken her up to help you deal with Sharon's ailment or whatever the issue was. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
When you were driving around with her in the car, you could have tried to driven to a fire station, you could have driven to a hospital, you could have driven to a police station. You had plenty of other choices. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
And if you had to do it all over again, obviously you would, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I want to publish, Your Honor, if I may, number 2, Your Honor.
You may.
If you can show us what we're seeing here, what are we watching here, Wesley?
This is a birthday party in Houston, and Sharon is in the right side, the blue dress, with her cousins.
I'm going to play this video.
My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. Oh, yeah! Alright, next song. I may never march in the infantry. Want to do the actions with me? Alright, stand up. Alright. I may never march in the infantry, ride on the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never support the enemy, 'cause I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir! I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir! I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir! I may never march in the infantry, ride on the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never support the enemy, 'cause I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir!
Wesley, did you and your wife spend a lot of time working with Sharon at home on all the different things that the therapist wanted y'all to work on?
Yes, sir.
Let me show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit number 3, Your Honor, if I may publish that one.
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Takes the sing.
Okay, Shayna, can you say your memory verse?
Yes. John 1:29. Or behold, the Lamb of God, which taketh away the sin of the world.
Good job. Shannon, you want to say again? Okay.
Try again.
Psalm 1:29. Behold, our God, rest, of the Lord.
Good job.
job.
Thank you, Shannon.
You have to say.
Wesley. If you could tell Sharon something now, what would you tell her?
Baby, I love to be with you in heaven. I just want to be with you, that's all. Where nobody can separate us anymore. I'm sorry for leaving you in the convent and walking away. I'm just sorry. I just wanted to be with you, that's all.
How's the witness, Sharon?
Attorney's approach. Lisa, let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready, Judge.
Okay. Members of the jury, we are going to break for the day. I want to remind you of the instructions that we reviewed last week, and you know, of course, that you will be remaining together like yesterday. You will not have your cell phones, you won't have access to phones in the rooms or TVs. You understand that you're not to communicate with anyone that's not of your jury or anyone that is actually on your jury about this case. Do you all understand that? Yes? Okay. You will have your jury badges on your person until you leave. Remember to put your badges back on once you arrive in the morning. You will leave your white numbers in the back. Okay? All right, Sheriff, let's take them out.
All right.
may be seated. Mr. Mathews, you can take a seat back at the council table. We're still on the record. Warriors, if you can make a notation for me, I need to get Mr. Mathews up before 8:30 in the morning. My hope is to start testimony around 8:15 in the morning. And council's going to talk to you about clothing and attorneys. Like I said, the expectation is that we will start, the panel will be inside at 8:15. Do y'all have any questions or anything that we need to discuss before we break for the day?
No, Your
Defense?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, thank you. You all are excused. Off the record.